This is Mr. Elmhorst with the quarter summative exam review for first quarter. We're going to be looking at just some summary topics from first quarter that we focused on and looking for mastery practice of it. So the first half of this review is solving equations and inequalities. So over here on the left, we have a bunch of variable x's, and we can call those the unknowns or somethings, and there's 5 of them. And there's 5 times the x's, which we have, and then there's 6 ones, and we're just going to treat those as positives. There's an equal sign here, and then on the right side, the model is represented with only 1 on the right side. So we're going to identify the something that's missing, the variable term, 5 times x, and then we're going to use this splitting left side, right side process to help us solve. So we're going to focus on the left side with the variable term, and we're going to add or subtract to work the problem backwards first. So we're going to subtract 6 from the variable side and then go to the other side and subtract 6. Bring the variable term, the something times 5, down to step 2. And this is positive 1, and then turn around and go negative 6. If you go positive 1 and then negative 6, you're going to end up at negative 5. So now we have 5 times x, and we're going to do the inverse, divide both sides by 5. So now we have 1x, which is equal to negative 1. Looking at question number 2, we need to write an equation from a geometric concept. And inside this triangle, we have something 2x, something 53, and then something over here. So this is a right angle, so that equals 90 degrees. And if we add all of the angles in a triangle, all the angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. So how can we write an equation to represent that? Well, we take all of these somethings inside the triangle, 53 plus 90 plus 2x equals 180. And we can combine some like terms here. 53 plus 90, those are both numbers by themselves. So 90 plus 53 is going to be 143 plus 2x, which is our variable term. And then we have 180. So we circle the variable term, and then we can start solving. And we're going to take away 43 from both sides, so we can help solve for the unknown something of x. Something times 2 plus 143 equals 180. So 180 minus 143 divided by 2 would help us solve. So we got 2x is equal to, and I believe that's going to be 37. So the question up here, what's the measure of angle A? Well, the measure of angle A is 37 degrees. So we could divide by 2 and then take it back to what we're looking for, but that is what we're looking for. So this something is 2 times 18.5 equals 37. And so we have 90 degrees, 53 degrees, and then 37 degrees. Okay. Supplementary angles are going to be 2 angles that add up to equal 180 degrees. So within these angles, we have something, something, and something. And if we add all those up, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So let's set up an equation to represent this situation. So 110 is the first thing. And then we have 22 plus 4x equals 180 degrees. So all of this stuff inside the angles put together will equal 180 degrees. So now we combine 110 plus 22. So we got 132 plus 4x, which is equal to 180. And then we circle our variable term and the sign to the left. And then we start solving using inverses. And bring the variable term down to the next step. And that's 100 minus 100 and 80 minus 32. So that is going to be 48. And then we have 4 times x. 4 times something equals 48. So we're going to divide to find the something, and x is equal to 12. And that makes sense. 4 times 12 equals 48. All right, just solve for the inequality. We've got 6x on the left. So we found our variable term, and we're going to put that on hold for right now. And it's positive, so our variable is not going to flip. So we're going to keep the inequality sign the way it is, and then we start solving. Cancel, cancel. We're going to bring down 6x, and then 17 minus 5 is going to be 12. Now we go back to the variable term, and we divide both sides by 6. Now we have 1x. 1x is greater than 2. We have p divided by 8 minus 2 is greater than 6. Okay, find our variable term. The variable term is positive, so our sign is good. There's no flip with the sign because we have a positive variable term. And now we're going to start solving. And what we do to one side, we're going to go over and do to the other. And then bring the variable term down, p divided by 8, which is greater than, why did I put 6 over there? Oh, I was looking at it, plus 2. All right, so now we've got 8. Let's focus here. So 6 plus 2 is going to be 8. And this p, which is the variable something is divided by 8. And that's compared to 8. But the opposite of dividing is going to be multiplying. So 8 times 8 becomes the variable p is greater than 64. But let's make sure we understand what this means. So the answer is not 64. Which student makes a value that says the inequality is true? All right, so if we go up here, the number, and if we put in right here, 24 is greater than 64, that's not true. So if we make p the number 56, 56 is greater than 64. That is also not true. And if we have 64 is greater than 64, that's not true. It's equal to, but it's not greater. So we go to the last one, and 72 is greater than 64. That is true. So which one would make the inequality true? Rick from 72 would know. Okay, so which number is a rational number, integer, and a whole number? Well, this falls into our classification grouping. So we got rational, integer, whole numbers. And the only number that goes down through all of these would be positive numbers, and positive numbers that have no decimal attached to them. So a rational integer whole number is a whole number that has no decimal attached to it. So that is not a whole number. That's not a whole number. And if we simplify 48 divided by 12, that is 4, which is going to be a whole number. So how high is the stack? There's two things that we're going to put together. We have 2 and 6/7. 2 and 2/3. And then we have 2 and 6/7. So I would encourage you to use number sense here. We're going to add the two whole numbers, and 2 plus 2 is going to be 4. So we know it's not this one, and we know it's not that one because we're adding. And then we need to add our fractions. Okay, so if we add our fractions, this fraction is equal to 0.66, and this fraction is equal to pretty close to one whole number. So we can say 0.95. So if we add these up, we're going to get 1.61. And we had two whole numbers from the whole numbers. Now we add it to 1.61, and we're going to end up with 5.61, or approximately. This is going to be close to that. So it's 5.61, which is definitely not going to be 7. That's too much. We wanted to use a part total model to help us understand this question a little bit easier. So we have a total of 30 students, and they're asking in the survey what their favorite class was. So out of the total of 30 students, if we go through this information, it says we have 2/3 of those students chose football. And out of the football, 2/3, 2 out of 3 is pretty closer to a whole number than it is to 0. So we're going to go over half on this one and say somewhere out of this 30 is going to be 2/3 that said football. And then we have 1/6. 1 out of 6 is kind of a small amount, and that was basketball. And then question mark, the last one is asking about soccer. So we're going to try to solve this. Now we use 6th grade math to help us complete this. So 2/3 times 30, and then 1/6 times 30. So we got 2/3 times 30, the part times the total, and that's 60 over 3, which is going to give us 20 students. There were a total of 30, and 20 said football. All right, now we're going to go to the 1/6, and then we got 1/6 times 30. So that's 30 over 6, and that's going to give us 5. So that's 5 students that said basketball, 20 students that said football. Well, how many is that's left over? So it's going to be 5 students that said soccer. Sunnyside Amusement Park charges $14 for admission, and then it's 3 and is another word for and is adding for this sentence. So $14 and 3.5 for each ride, and each ride is actually calculated over here. It's 6. So we have $14 plus $13 and 3.5 times 6. Okay, so we're going to do multiply first with order of operations and then add. So we got 3.5 times 6. That's going to give us 20 1. So 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 3. And then we move 1 decimal over in our answer. And then we add that together. There's 21 plus 14 is going to give us $35 for the amusement park. So we got 4.5 divided by 0.75. Where did I get the 7.75 from? Well, the fractional value of 3/4 is 75 cents or 75 hundredths. So now we're going to take this number here, 4.5, and it's going to go inside division with 0.75 on the outside. So longhand division, we're dividing 4.5, but we learned in 6th grade that if you have a decimal on the outside, we're going to move it and remove it to make a whole number. But when we move it on the outside, then we move the same number of place values on the inside division. Okay. And then I believe that's going to be 6. 7 goes into 45 about 6 times, and then 6 times 75 is 450. We got 2.1x plus 2.2, which is equal to 8.5. We're going to circle our variable term, draw a line down through the comparison symbol, and then we start solving away. On the side of the variable, we start solving by adding or subtracting first. So we start removing the positives with negatives, and then bring the variable term down to step 2. I believe that's going to be a 6.3. And then we divide both sides by 2.1. So now x is equal to 6.3 divided by 2.1. Well, that's 3. And 3 divided by 1 is going to be 3. So I believe x is going to be equal to 3.